Before I get into today's video, just want to say, initially I was going to save this review for a much later date for if I were to meet a subscriber milestone or whatever, or just some special occasion. But technically speaking, today is a special occasion. I am recording this in advance, but hopefully by the time this video gets posted, it'll be the 24th, which marks my birthday, so happy birthday to me. But anyways, I just want to say that for today's special day, I want to review a very special set, which you've already read the title and you've already seen the thumbnail and all that, so let's just get straight into it and look at this really amazing set right now. Hey yo, folks, welcome to the channel, and today we're looking at an amazing rare set. That is the LEGO set number 7153, Jango Fett Slave 1. This set released in 2002 with 369 pieces, 2 really rare figures, originally retailing for $50 US. Yes, $50 US. Let that sink in. $50 US. To think that this set is now worth 10 times the price, used or new. It's crazy to think. But anyways, let's take a look at those really cool figures and this really cool set right now. And here we have the main attraction itself, Jango Fett Slave 1. It's crazy to think that until just recently, we have never gotten a single remake of this. And I'm not counting the advent calendar little things. No, I'm counting a full-on legitimate set. We haven't gotten one until 2025 this year. So that's like nearly, arguably 23 years we haven't gotten a remake of this set. Come to think of it, there's a whole lot of Attack of the Clones set that has never gotten a remake, like the Tusken Raider encounter and as well as the Bounty Hunter Pursuit, which hopefully they maybe do that next year in 2026, but it's just crazy that this is just now getting a remake, a UCS set in May, as well as the summer. We're supposedly getting another set, a more minifigure scale set, which I am a bit worried for 3 reasons. One, because I think the price count is $70 and it does have a rather small piece count, if I recall correctly, which does make me worry it's going to be like I think it was 2020 Slave 1. I think that Slave 1. I was just worried it'll be really small like that Slave 1. And the other worry is that they might reuse the same figures from the UCS set, aside from the Mystery Kaminoan, who I would imagine might be Lama Su, because they already used Tonwi and Obi-Wan Kenobi Starfire. And my third worry is that it'll go from $70 to $80 or even $90 due to price changes due to, let's just say, world circumstances. But let's get that out of the way and focus on the real thing at hand. As in the set, which you can see it has a lot of unique colors and unique pieces, like these slow pieces. Actually, let's take a look at the back real quick, because you'll see some unique features, which there's not a whole lot to talk about in the back. And usually the Slave 1 sets have like a sort of face-looking thing on the back, but this one doesn't. It's just got a few pieces, as well as this weird little compartment sort of thing, which is actually connected by a magnet. I can't even think of the last time LEGO had a magnet thing, which I don't think you ever really see these types of whatever this is container. I do think maybe it's in the gunship of the same year, but I could be wrong. But it's still an interesting thing. You could probably have like extra pieces or minifigures in here or whatever you'd like, and you could see the opening right here, and you could just put it in and just like that. Now let's actually land it down, readjust the camera real quick to look at it at a better angle. Like I said before, this set uses a lot of unique and old pieces, or pieces you just don't see very often, like these slow pieces in this color, or this piece right here, which was originally used for Pohatu's foot in the Bionicle line. And you can see these like little like hinge type pieces on the wings right here, which you don't see this type. Let me actually readjust the camera so you can see better. Which you don't actually see these type of clips anymore these days. Usually it's like I guess the C type. I'm not sure what you'd exactly call it. This does have a few unique pieces, like in the front. You think these are stickers, but actually they're prints. If you take the windshield or cockpit thing off, you can see that there's some more printed pieces like this slope piece, which LEGO nowadays would never make this printed. It would be once in a blue moon they do this type of thing, but this is a print, this is print, as well as this control panel on the little seat area is printed. It's been a while since I've seen these prints, and I do think this got updated modernly, but that's besides the point. But yeah, like I said, you got some unique hinged pieces that you don't see often, which do hide some unique things in their compartments. Like, let's open this up. You can see 2 missiles, as well as this thing. I'm not too sure what this is supposed to be. Maybe it's meant to be a seismic charge, but it doesn't entirely look like a seismic charge. Though the new UCS set does have a seismic charge at least. You also got this at the side. You do got the same thing outside along with these two, but in here you got like these little missile things, which you can see right here, and if you turn them to the side, it's got another thing of missiles. Or it could just be a little rotating gun or something, I'm not too sure, but it's still nice to get this. And you got these guns, these like little turrets or so, which surely can rotate. It can't rotate a full 360, but it can surely rotate. The other one can do. As well as you also got these compartments. You got this, that way you can fully open it, but you got these compartments which you could have accessories like Jango's blasters or his hairpiece or whatever, but it's nice to get those. And if you could see in the back, which where someone would normally enter the vehicle, which there's not a true way to enter the vehicle aside from taking the windshield off and putting the minifigures, of course. You also got this little hinged piece, which, as you can see, there's 3 trans orange heads, which, if you close this, but lift this up, bombs away. And now I gotta pick all those up, but yeah, that's really cool. Another thing I'd like to note is that this does use a lot of the old gray. Yeah, old gray. Lego used to have a bit of a, let's just say a dirty gray. I'm not saying that to be mean, it just looks a bit dirty, especially when you compare it to, let's say, the newer gray. Like, let's adjust the camera and you could just take a look. The newer gray is a lot more brighter and I guess a bit of a bluish gray, I suppose, while this one's a bit more of a darker, dirtier one, but that's besides the point. This does contain a lot of unique pieces, a lot of cool colors and whatnot, and despite its age, it's a really amazing set, and it does hold up well for its time. I'm so glad we got a remake of this set, even if it's UCS, and I do hope the minifigure scale one is as good as this one, if not better, but hopefully it isn't a puny one like the more recent Boba Fett slave one, but yeah, this is a really cool set with a lot of cool pieces and all that, and I'm not sure what all to say. Actually, real quick before we move on to the next segment, let's actually take one last look at the cockpit area, but this time with the figures, which you can fit both minifigures within the cockpit, but you can't have them side by side like the scene has them in the ship, but yeah, as you can see, both figures fit perfectly fine in. I imagine if you have Jango with his helmet and jetpack on, it could still fit. Let's actually see that. Yeah, it does fit. Let's put the windshield on, or whatever you'd call it, and let's readjust the camera real quick so that way you can see what it looks like. It's a bit awkward, but yeah, this can turn and you can see. And as you can see, you can have both figures in the cockpit as so, even though young Boba's a bit hard to see, and of course I don't have Jango's head turned, but still, it's real nice. It does get the job done, and I do think that the set's really good, and the minifigures are just phenomenal, which, let's now look at those minifigures right now. For our first minifigure of the set, we of course have the simple man making his way through the universe himself, Jango Fett, and I gotta tell you, this is just a really amazing figure. Even though it's dated compared to today's standard, it's just a really amazing figure, and it's crazy how rare it's gotten. As you can see, he does have this like bluish purplish type of color for his arms and legs, which I believe have never been used for any other minifigure aside from this version, aside from this minifigure. And he has, of course, has those 2 dual pistols for his weapons, which use that older gray, as well as on his torso, which does also have a bit of a light silverish, kind of like on his helmet, which, as you can see, it's all one piece for the helmet. Nowadays, it's separate from the jetpack, so that way you have the helmet and the jetpack, but back in the day, for Jango Fett and Boba Fett, it was just one piece, which, take that off, you can see that he doesn't have any back printing, but his head does have printing, rather than being just a plain black head, which shows him with his headset and balaclava, or whatever it's called, which looks great. It's a great addition to go along with the scene and such, which it also does come with a hairpiece, which is the old Han Solo hairpiece, which in black, which just looks great. This is just a really amazing figure, and I'm not sure what all to say aside from it's just crazy how this figure is in person, and it's just crazy how much in value this minifigure has grown over the years. It's just incredible, and I can't say I don't know why. It's just a really amazing figure, and it's a shame we haven't got a whole lot of them aside from in that one droid tank, as well as Obi-Wan's ring, and now the new UCS Slave one. Even though those figures are really amazing, this minifigure is just special. It's old, it's classic, it's retro, whatever you want to say, it's just special. It's got a really amazing helmet piece, really amazing colors, really amazing stuff overall. That being said, let's take a look at the next figure right now. And for our next and final figure of the set, we of course have young Boba Fett, which, even though he's not as rare or unique per se as Jango Fett, even though he is pretty rare when you think about it, not as rare, but still pretty rare, this figure is just really nice for what it is. Like I said, the newer figures nowadays are a bit more detailed and more unique, even though the newest version does have a bit of an odd hairpiece choice, but still, it's really nice. This is a really cool figure. You got some printing on the front, but of course no printing on the back, and as you can see, he does have those short legs that was introduced in the line with Yoda, which I'm pretty sure that in these color of light blue is pretty uncommon, but I could be wrong. He does have this unique face, which I guess is a bit of a smug face. It almost looks, it's so cool, it almost looks like one of those custom faces that you'd see people do for those custom Star Wars characters to represent the classic versions of them, but I'm getting dragged on. But as you can see, he does have the black hair piece, which would later be used for Anakin for Revenge of the Sith, but this time in black. Still, it's really nice, and unfortunately he doesn't come with any accessories, but still, it's real nice to get him. You can't really do the set without him, or Jango Fett for that matter, but yeah, this is just a really nice figure. Even though he's not as special per se as Jango Fett, this is just a really nice figure to get, and I'm so glad this figure was included in this set. Even though the newer versions are a bit more detailed and a bit more better per se, this is just still a really amazing figure, and I think they just really did well with this version of him in this set for the time. But anyways, let's take a unique look at something else in this set. Usually we would cap it off here, but today we got a little something more. Why don't we take a look at that right now? Normally I don't keep boxes or look at boxes within my reviews, however today's different because I do have the Slave 1 box, which it just barely fits in my video screen, as you could clearly see, which it does of course have the old retro Star Wars box type of font or whatever you want to say, which you can see that the Slave 1 is within an asteroid field. I'm trying to get it so that way there's not a lot of glare. Which, by the way, if anyone knows how to do video stuff, let me know how I can avoid all the glare and all that, but you could roughly see Jango in the cockpit right there, which this is some pretty cool box art. And if you look at the side, you also got some box art too. You got the minifigures here. You got Boba Fett, Jango Fett, and a little Jango Fett in the docking bay or so. If you look at the top, usually the figures are on top rather than on the side, but you got the turrets at the side, the Gatling turrets or whatever, as well as Star Wars look. And on the side, you don't got much, just the choking hazard parts warning, and on the bottom, it's just the barcode and all that, as well as some more. The back does have a lot more on it though, because you could see like all the features and details you could do, like you could deploy the bombs, you could do alternate build, which, by the way, the instructions that come in the set don't show how to do this, so I imagine you have to look online or so for these alternative builds, which, one thing I'd like to mention is that the set does come with some extra parts for these builds and such, so in case you are building this and you're thinking, oh, maybe I missed something, nope, that's just most likely for the older build. And you can see how the thing can rise up to go into flight mode and land mode, and then you got, on the bottom right here, you got the photos from the movie with Jango in his armor, Jango with his headset, and young Boba Fett, as well as a couple of things to websites, some Star Wars fan website. I have no clue if this is still online or if it's under a new domain or if it's a dead website. Lego.com is still available, of course, and then you got some other Clone Wars sets at the bottom. You got the Count Dooku duel, you got some super battle droids, as well as the gunship, as well as the Slave 1, as well as Obi-Wan's Starfighter, and the Tusken Raider encounter, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video. They should remake this, even if it's small like it is before. But yeah, it's really nice to get a little look at these older boxes and just see how creative they were back then, especially with how sets used to have alternative builds and such, which it's really nice that I was able to get this. And like I said, the instructions don't really show you how to do these alternative builds, but actually, why don't we take a look at the instructions real quick right now. And here we have the instructions, which as you can see, they're the old staple kind, which eventually they just went for a hard side. I'm not sure what to call them, but as you can see, it does have that cool retro Star Wars sort of graphic design or whatever you want to call it. As well as in the back, you got just an advertisement for the Lego Star Wars website before we got the whole Go survey link thing, whatever you want to call it, but which it's kind of cool actually. It's got like a little nostalgic feel, like for the early 2000s with a lava lamp, big computer, and you got Yoda just sitting there on the computer. I wonder what set that is right there. But as you can look, you can see this. Instructions are very unique. You got the minifigures right there, and something I find interesting about the instructions is usually on the top corner they would show you what pieces you need, but I guess back then you just have to guess what pieces you need. So that's interesting. Like, it doesn't say that, hey, you need this tile that you didn't have in this piece or so. But if you go to the far back after the instruction, another thing, it doesn't even show the pieces in the set, like what pieces are in the set, so that's interesting. But you can see advertisements for all the Attack of the Clones set. There's the Bounty Hunter Pursuit and the Tusken Raider Encounter. Both need remakes, as well as the Obi-Wan Starfighter and Jango's Slave 1. And if you go to the side, you can see some other sets, some more Clone Wars sets, the Technic Super Battle Droid, as well as the Gunship, as well as the Count Dooku Duel, as well as the, at the time, the very first, I believe this was the first Millennium Falcon, along with some of the TIE Fighters, as well as the Cloud City Cloud Car, so that's an interesting thing. This is 1 year before the rarest Lego Star Wars set came out. To think that $100 set would be worth thousands, but that's for another time, if I ever get that set, but just think about it. But yeah, it's really cool to look at some of these older manuals to see what it was like back then, going through some of these unique manuals. It's just so cool just to see how much things have changed. But anyways, let's close off the review. But before we do so, let's take one final look at the set right now. Overall, I think this is just a really amazing set. You got a lot of uncommon colored pieces, some pieces and elements that you don't ever see anymore in the modern day, and even for its time, I think this is just a really solid set, and some extraordinary figures too. I love how the set basically came with no stickers and just some really awesome prints. I would say I would surely recommend this set, but I wouldn't recommend going after it unless you've got the wallet for it. I was lucky enough to get this set. I'm not going to say what I got it for, but let's just say I got it for what this figure would go for alone. Yeah, it's quite a pretty penny, but yeah, this is just a really extraordinary set, and if somehow you're able to get it, I would get it. I mean, it's not like special compared to any of today's sets, but I think it's just a really amazing set for what it is. It's got some cool features and all that, and I think it's a fine addition to anyone's collection, if you will. But anyways, that'll be all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that, because it helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one!